We've got verbal bullying, social bullying, physical bullying, and even cyberbullying. In recent years, the topic's been plastered all over the headlines so much that it seems like there may be no reliable solutions. Well, we're here today to see if we can offer some insight and even hear from one girl who's actively making a difference. I'm your host, Scott Schenkel, and this is the Viking Voice. You guys doing good today? You guys doing good? So let's welcome our guests, Miss Jen Komoroski.
How are you?
And Mrs. Nemeth.
Hello.
And Anna Moffett.
Hi.
Thank you for coming here. It's awesome to have you. And let's get right into it. So the first thing we're going to talk about is how do we really define what bullying is?
Okay, well, actually, there is a legal definition for bullying. In order for us to classify something as bullying, it has to meet certain criteria. And many students are confused because sometimes they think bullying kind of is something that happens over a long period of time. It could be a single incident or a series of incidents. It often happens, it could be here on school property, off school property, and it's got to be perceived by something, what we call like a distinguishing characteristic, whether it's race, sexual orientation, gender, or what was the other term we use, a distinguishing characteristic. And sometimes those are things that lots of times we'll see in high school, that someone just doesn't like somebody for some reason. She's annoying, or she's rude, or she thinks she's so popular, or some kind of characteristic they attach to that person and try and make things uncomfortable for that person here in school.
Okay. How would you say the school deals with it?
Of course, there's the HIB policy, and then you can always talk to the counselors or anything, but most of the time, kids are too scared to go to an authority in fear of the backlash from the bully.
So talking about how it can be a little bit scary, do you think that the program has been effective?
I would say yes. Kind of talking to Anna's point about that, you know, not only is our reporting form is right online, it's right on our website site. Kids can either fill it out, they can come speak with a counselor, any staff member in the building they can go speak to if they have concerns about bullying. But we also have an anonymous form as well. So for students that do have that fear of backlash or fear that maybe, I'm going to say something and now people are going to come at me, I'm a snitch, I'm a tattle, whatever the case may be, students can even, or parents, or really anyone else can fill that out anonymously and, help stop the bullying, help stop whatever's going on. I would say yes, I feel like our programs are effective. Not only the investigation piece that Mrs. Nemeth and I do, but then the remediation piece follow-up for both the victims and the bullies in those cases.
Okay, so with that and the anonymous tip and whatnot, are there any other practical ways to deal with bullying, maybe if you witness it up front?
Sure, I'll start with that one.
Sure.
We tell our students all the time, any kids that we're talking with, the best thing you can do if you see bullying occurring is to say something. Whether it's in the moment, being a bystander, being an active bystander, we call it an upstander, saying to that person, hey, stop, what are you doing? That's my friend. Or even something as simple as going up to the person being bullied and saying, hey, come on, let's go for a walk, let's go to your locker, whatever. Just getting that person out of the situation. That's the best thing you can do. Data says, 50% of the time, if people did that, it would stop bullying from even happening further 50% of the time. That's one of the best things you can do. And then if you're not comfortable in that situation, just saying something afterwards, telling a friend, telling a teacher, telling a parent, just someone so that, we can do something about it here at the school.
And I think too, we try and point out whenever students come in and are accused of something like that, no one likes to be accused in a situation like this. So they always kind of say, hey, well, we're friends, I didn't mean it, we're just kidding. And I also try and point out to students that, if you have a history with somebody, that kidding goes back and forth. You may be on the same sports team, you may be friends, you may hang out, you may go on vacations together. You're friends, you have a history. So if you do something that is offensive and this other person takes offense to it, you say, hey, I'm sorry. And this person knows that you kind of have a connection. But if you don't have that, you don't talk, you don't text, it kind of takes on a different feel. And when we talk about that and make that point with students, like, you know what, I know what you mean. I can see why she would think I would be bullying her or harassing her. I could see why he may think I don't mean it that way. But when they look at it that way and realize, wow, we don't have that connection, and what I'm doing is kind of harassing this kid or trying to intimidate somebody, then students kind of begin to realize, wow, I see how my actions are impacting this person. And they 9 times out of 10 want to apologize, or how do I make this right? And those are things we work on through guidance lots of times, through Mr. Hunt's office, through their guidance counselor, to try and kind of make amends. So, you know, we're in the same building lots of times in classes together, in the hallways and lunch, and no one wants to have that, feel like something's kind of sitting between them. So we work real hard to try and clear those things up.
And how would you say, Anna, a practical way to deal with it is as a victim of bullying?
I mean, of course, there is talking to Mr. Hunt. He's great to talk to. He's really easy to talk to, really easy to make appointments with. Ms. Nemeth is always there, and so are all of the other counselors, but a lot of the time it is harder to talk to people about what you go through, so sometimes you just talk to friends, and having somebody just to listen is sometimes the best thing.
Okay. And so there's a bunch of practical ways to deal with, you know, the victim and sort of witnessing it, but how are we dealing with the bullies? You know, I mean, are we punishing them, or are we really trying to help them, you know, become better?
So here at the high school, we kind of have a 2-part process with that. So when we complete an investigation, and it's either confirmed or unconfirmed. So an unconfirmed HIB would be, we've done the investigation, it wasn't an act of bullying. But when it's confirmed, there are remediation pieces for both the victim and the bully. So the victim does follow-ups, like you mentioned with Mr. Hunt, their counselor, something like that. The bully also is required to do follow-up. There may be consequences for their actions, disciplinary consequences, but then there's also a piece that we kind of do some education with them, so about bullying and what it means, and kind of do a little self-reflection with them as to why were they doing what they were doing. Oftentimes, kind of research will show you that bullies do what they do because they themselves have some sort of underlying thing going on that we kind of need to deal with and address. So that's how we address it here at the school. We've seen it to be effective here, and a helpful way to kind of offer them support as well.
That's awesome.
I
Yeah,
agree.
really awesome.
Yeah,
Okay.
it really helps.
So now we're going to go to a piece on Natalie Hampton, who actually created an app called Sit With Us. And this app is basically, it allows you can do one of 2 things. You can either be a sitter or you can be an ambassador. And if you're an ambassador, you can sort of invite people to your lunch table who maybe didn't have somebody else to sit with. And if you're a sitter, you can find an ambassador's table and join their table. And I think it's really cool. I think it's an awesome app. And what are you guys' thoughts on that?
I think that because lunchtime, sometimes when you have 40 minutes and you're sitting sometimes by yourself, or you don't really feel like you fit in somewhere, or lots of times in guidance we'll have students that want to come in and maybe change their schedule because their friends are in another lunch or they have no one to sit with. And when you kind of walk in the lunchroom and there's a couple hundred kids, you think, you have no one to sit with, you know, which is really unfortunate. So maybe this type of app would be something that would really kind of hopefully take on here at Voorhees. And we have a lot of awesome kids in this building. I think that would be wonderful, and I think would really embrace this app and would really help kind of promote a positive school climate. And so I'm hoping it's something that we can certainly do here.
From a student's point of view, what do you think of the app? Do you think it's a good idea? Do you think it would help?
I think it's actually a great idea. I've seen kids in my own lunch actually this year who do sit with themselves, and it makes me think, do they do that by their own choice, or do they do it just because they have nobody else to sit with? And a person who, like myself, I sat alone until I have had some friends that decided to come over. It really would make a difference for those kids.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
All right. And you know, so I personally, I think it's an awesome app, and I think it could definitely catch on, like you said. And you know, I hope it does. It's currently over all kinds of news articles, and it's huge.
It's gotten a lot of attention across the country.
It really has, yeah.
Yeah.
So before we go, here's a message from Michaela Szymanski to give us a little info on the Peyton Heart Project.
Hi, my name is Michaela Szymanski and I'm a Peyton Heart Project ambassador. The Peyton Heart Project is an organization founded to promote suicide awareness, anti-bullying, and to end the bad stigma that mental health issues have. You never know what bullying can lead to. In Peyton's case, he was a 13-year-old boy who lived in Texas. He was harassed and bullied in school and ended up ending his own life. Please be aware of what you say, because you never know what your words can mean to somebody else. Always be kind to one another and accept people for who they are. If you would like to find out more about the Peyton Heart Project, please visit www.thepeytonheartproject.org. Thank you so much.
Unfortunately, that's all we've got time for, but I'd like to thank our guests for coming out here today. And bullying has been around forever, but it's not something that should simply be accepted as part of growing up. It needs to be dealt with as the crime it is. Bullies should be made to understand that society cannot and will not tolerate their actions. No one deserves to live in fear. We also need to be proactive and stand up for those who cannot. As quoted from Teddy Roosevelt, knowing what's right doesn't mean much unless you do what's right. Again, I'd like to thank our guests for coming out. This was the Viking Voice, and I'm Scott Schenkel. Until our next broadcast, be the kind of person you'd want to meet. Thanks all for coming out.